Blog Talk Radio.
Hello from the other side.
Now presenting
From the other side.
Channeling Erik's Hour of Enlightenment.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I am on the road, so you're going to hear a lot of road noise. I'm going to have to mute my phone a lot. And furthermore, Kim is under the weather, so it just shows you the links that we will go to, right, Kim, to make these people happy, right?
That's right. Yep.
Right as
it's
we
been
started,
a rough week,
we
but
went
we're
through,
here, and go
yeah,
ahead.
we're here. No, right as it was starting, I had to say, seriously? Because we just went over like a bunch of bumps, and it's just so freaking loud. Anyway, but Kim, let's start out with you telling a little bit about yourself. So
Sure.
show us tell us about your greatness.
Oh, well, it's, you guys know by now, hopefully, that I work with Spirit to bring you guys new perspective, to bring you new information to hopefully help change your life for the better. And in doing so, I've met up with the Medus family and met Erik, who is Elisa's son. And he is now a spirit guide, working from the other side to help guide all of you guys to an easier, happier, more fulfilling life. And that's what we're here for. That's what we do. Each week we have these shows every Thursday night and information we put up on the blog and YouTube to bring you guys new information, evolved information to help you guys grow through life and live the best life possible. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and you can get a pen and paper, and write down her website. You can check her out, KimBabcock.net. Don't forget, it's
That's
.net.
right.
You've got a lot of great things going on that if we have time and she's feeling up to it, she'll explain at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Erik, how are you doing, sweetie?
He's like, he has a hat on sideways. He says, "Oh, Mom, I'm game. You know I'm doing good."
He loves having that sideways hat thing. He really does. Do you think we should shout out to liveparanormal.com and thank them for hosting us on their radio program? I think so, right, Erik?
He says, "It sounds good, Mom." He says, "They got some good shit going on."
I do. They do. They really do. All right,
Station
today
identification.
is the second.
Thank you, liveparanormal.com. Thank you.
Yes. This is the second in our series, in Erik's series on relationships. And Erik, you're going to talk about how to maintain these relationships. Some people say, boy, it sure does take a lot of work. Sometimes it's not worth it, sometimes it is. So let's see what the relationship guru has to say. And again, I'm going to mute my phone as much as possible so you guys don't hear these potholes. All right. Take it away, Erik and Kim.
Yes. So it's funny that you even mentioned, he said the same thing, Elisa. He called himself the same thing. He goes, "Who would have ever thought I'd be a relationship guru?" But it's all about seeing things from a new perspective, and I can help you with that, he says. If I can help you see things from a new perspective, then I can help you shift the dynamics in a relationship to help make it work, or even help you understand yourself better. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about maintaining relationships, whether they're siblings or romantic relationships, any type of relationship. When it becomes toxic or taxing and straining on you, what you can do, how you can maintain it. And so that's kind of what he wants to talk about. So he keeps making jokes about himself, calling himself Rico Suave when it comes to relationships and relationship advice. So, and it's interesting because all of my sessions that I've done this week, earlier this week, we have actually talked about this. A lot of people seem to really be coming down with this like relationship illness, where it's, earlier it was a mother and a daughter, it was two sisters, and even husband and wife today. So it's been interesting how Erik has been giving this guidance all week long, and here we are on the radio show doing it yet again. So there's a couple key elements that he wants you guys to look at when you feel like you're in one of these situations. in maintaining a relationship, first of all, he says he's going to start from the back end first. If you realize it's a relationship that does more harm than good, and we'll kind of get into your reactions and emotions and all of that stuff too, but he says point blank, you need to look at if the relationship is causing more harm than good, you don't have to like negatively sign off, but you don't have to continue the relationship either. You can still love them, still be their friend, but you don't have to continue that closeness. You can separate and create space. So give yourself that permission. Give yourself permission to allow yourself to pull back a little bit if you need to, and know when the time is right. Know when the time is appropriate. Usually it's when the relationship is productive or healthy at your expense. So if it's at your expense that it's healthy, meaning like if you have to change yourself in some way, or if you have to adjust your personality or even the way you dress to make someone else in the relationship happy, then that's when it's becoming unproductive. So be mindful, pay attention when you make those changes, because now you're just trying to fit into their box. He goes, we all know what that's like. So be mindful when you guys do that. And I can share an example. I used to do that too, and I finally realized, like this one friendship I had, it just seemed like my friend we just didn't click anymore. We just didn't have anything in common anymore. And here I was trying to relate to her and find something in common, and it was just too much of a struggle. And that's when I asked my guides, what do I do? And they said it's okay to let go. You can still love her, but you don't have to continue like a close friendship. So you guys can look in areas of your life where you can apply that same concept. And getting a little bit deeper, Erik wants you guys to look at, especially when it comes to like partners, where you're in a romantic relationship, whether it's a spouse or you're just dating. He says, one thing I want all of you guys to remember is you can never give yourself, the best of yourself, to someone unless you've met that best of yourself first. So he says it's kind of like going through the motions of, naming to yourself like who you are and what you hope for in life, not just in a relationship, but in life. Because at least when you have that foundation, then you can be more solid, more productive, and more whole as you sort of, introduce yourself to someone else or give yourself to someone else. So he says, because if you don't know who you are, you can easily get caught up in the other person and, doing things to make them happy, and then doing things, that they like where you wind up kind of looking back and you regret it. He says that happens all too often, where people they look back and they think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I let him talk me into that, or whatever it is. He says you have to maintain mindfulness of who you are so that you can be healthy and productively give yourself in a healthy way to another. Now, with that being said, if you are and if you can give yourself to another in a healthy way, but maybe they just take and take and take, or maybe they can't quite reciprocate that giving, then he says then you have to ask yourself, what is it worth? Is it worth continuing? Is it taking too much from me? And when you know that it's causing more harm than good, when you know that it's more of a negative effect than a positive, then it's up to you to take the responsibility and make a change. He says, he's kind of laughing. He says, all too long, people let it drag out way longer than it should, holding out hope that something's going to change. And he says, I have news for you. People do change, yes, but if you have to change them completely to be happy, he says maybe you should look at the other side, the other effect. if you have to change someone completely to be happy, you have to find a common ground to meet where the two of you are willing to compromise. But if you have to change completely and then you're pissed off or the other one's pissed off because they have to change, then again, it's counterproductive. And it's better to go your own separate ways. He wants to touch real quick on relationships with children and parents, or even people with their siblings, like that contemporary type of relationship. For example, earlier I had a lady that was sort of estranged from her mother and wanted some advice on, I want to mend that, but I'm not sure. Every time I do, it's like poison all over again. So should I or shouldn't I? And Erik said, well, to remember the emotions, they're always going to have a space if you let them, right, to emotionally react. So even if you know that someone has a pattern, like a history of treating you a certain way, then you have to be mindful of that. As long as you're mindful of it, then you don't have to become it or be affected by it. So when you're in a relationship style like this where okay, I'm going to try to mend things and close the gap between us so we can be a little bit closer, but I know that she's a very toxic person, it's a matter of not reacting to their type, or like their energy type is what he's saying. Because when you do, you become the same, and not only become the same, but you sort of drink that poison. You take it on and you saturate it, you become it. Instead, when you have that, if you have that knowing that that's a possibility, then all you need to do is stay in that neutral place where you don't engage the emotions to react. As soon as you do, you become the same thing. So he says it's your choice. Just be mindful of which way you're going to look at it and which way you're going to choose to react. How are you going to react? If you don't react, then you're saving yourself and sort of keeping yourself in a higher place. So he's like tapping on his temple. He says, I want you guys to think about that. I want you to process how you change yourself to appease another. So it's not bad to do things for another, if you want to, like out of service for your husband or your wife, if you want to do things for them to make them happy. But if you're sort of robbing from your own self-worth, and sort of shredding yourself to make them happy or to keep them content, then you're in a dangerous situation, because you're totally taking away from yourself, shredding yourself to appease another, and it's dangerous on both ends, because you're feeding them false information, basically, of who you are, and then in turn, you're losing sight of who you are. So, and then of course, after that, that's really hard to regain that self-worth. I had a session earlier today with a lady who experienced just recently, her husband became very abusive over the weekend, and this was quite a shock. And Erik was talking to her about, her own self-worth, and not to let her own self-worth suffer because of that, and to try to understand the other person's perspective, even though they might have been totally nasty and in a totally negative place. Try to understand their perspective, because when you shift your awareness, Erik says, then you're less likely to react emotionally and basically just add fuel to the fire. So always be willing to look at the other perspective, or try to look through the other perspective and see things from the other side of the relationship. And if you can do that, if you can allow yourself to do that, he says, you'll gain insight, you'll gain wisdom to grow, and insight to contribute in new ways to the relationship. If you're willing to look through the other side of the relationship from their perspective. He says, as you guys move forward, and even as you, he's kind of giggling. He says, as you anticipate new relationships, for those of you that are single and want to start dating and want to find that special someone, remember, he said this, I think he said this last week, he always tries to teach people finding and being in a relationship is great if that's what you hope for, but remember not to look for completeness and don't place your completeness or your wholeness in someone else, because then again you're robbing from yourself your own self-worth. If you think, well, I'm not complete until I have a soulmate, or I'm not complete until I have a lover, then you're really just stealing from yourself, and you will eventually at some point be left empty-handed, unfulfilled, because relationships pass away, people pass away, and then here you are again left empty-handed. So you have to find that wholeness within yourself first. When you do, that's when relationships manifest. And you know, it's like this one client that I have that has been waiting and waiting and waiting for years to find that special someone. And she was always frustrated. When am I going to find that special someone? You know, I want to be in a relationship. And first, Erik said, you have to stop longing, because you're expressing emotion through the lack of what you want. And so you're just perpetuating the absence of it. So to really manifest that relationship, you have to find that completeness within yourself first. But she was placing it within a partner. Like, once I find that person, I'll be complete. I'll be happy. But you're really only perpetuating that emptiness, you see? So find that wholeness within yourself first and develop it, work on it, know it. And then Erik uses the word spontaneously. Then you will spontaneously be able to manifest a partner, a happy relationship. But it starts here. He's tapping on the heart, on the chest. He says it starts here. You have to know yourself and be your own best partner. Be your own best friend, be your own guide, and then you can branch out. But if you branch out with this being empty, again, he's pointing to the heart, then eventually, literally, he's showing the branches drying up, shriveling up. You're not going to have anything to nourish you, to nourish the relationship. So when you guys, you know, give relationship advice, he says, or when you're going through these certain situations where you're like scratching your head going, oh my gosh, is it worth it? Should I continue? Here's a couple key things he wants you to remember. If it's taking away from your self-worth, you should reconsider. If you notice that you're doing things to change yourself to make someone else feel comfortable in a relationship, you should reconsider. Like, meaning, you know, if they're jealous and you do things, you dress a different way,